Hi, this is Eileen Miller from NADTC. We have two presentations to share with you today at the start of our second session, one from Marin County, California, which goes about 22 minutes, followed by a presentation from ACC Rides, also in California, which runs about 15 minutes. Don't forget to post your thoughts, questions, or comments in the LinkedIn forum. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to our second course session focused on coordination and collaboration. Today we are hearing from three speakers from Marin County, California, who are going to be talking about a partnership that was set up between local county public transit agency, Marin Transit, and Marin County Health and Human Services and the local area agency on aging. Our three speakers today are John Gaffney and Aaron McAuliffe from Marin Transit, and Anna Bagtas from the Marin County Department of Health and Human Services, Aging and Adult Services. Before they start their presentation, I'd like to provide a quick introduction to each of them. John Gaffney is a senior mobility analyst for Marin Transit. He has been working in the field of transportation for seniors and people with disabilities in Marin County for 14 years. Aaron McAuliffe is a transportation mobility planner for Marin Transit, working closely on the agency's Marin Access programs for seniors and people with disabilities. She has also worked on creating livable transportation policies and programs for people of all ages and abilities in her past roles at the San Francisco Planning and Urban Research Association, the Coalition for Smarter Growth, and the National Association of Area Agencies on Aging. Also presenting with them today is Anna Bagtas. Anna is currently the program manager at the Marin County Department of Health and Human Services, Aging and Adult Services, where she's primarily responsible for administering the work of the Area Agency on Aging. Prior to coming to the County of Marin, Anna was the Associate Director of Fellowship Programs for the American Hospital Association's Health, Research, and Educational Trust. So big thank you to each of you for being with us today, and I'll let you all take it away.
Thank you so much, Eileen. And for those of you who are joining us in the webinar today, thank you for participating. And I hope that you are able to get a lot out of this presentation so that you can start your collaboration with your local area agency on aging, as well as your transportation agency in your local community. So for today's webinar, what we would like to share with you is an example or a story of how the Area Agency on Aging in Marin County and the local transit agency had collaborated. And we also would like to share with you some strategies that we had implemented, and also some of our lessons learned from that collaboration and some of the outcomes of the collaboration that we have done in our local community. I will give an overview of the county and the original reasons why the AAA began to work with Marin Transit. John will discuss how the AAA and Marin Transit work together to implement a number of programs and initiatives so that we can improve transportation coordination in our community. And then Aaron will discuss what Marin Transit is doing to maintain and continue enhancing coordination and share a few resources for you so that you might be able to assess the gaps and opportunities in your community. So for those of you who are not familiar with Marin County, and I know some of you probably are coming from many different parts of the nation. Marin County is in California, and it is just north of San Francisco. So you'll see here the Golden Gate Bridge, which is a very familiar landmark for a lot of people. And if you just drive north of the Golden Gate Bridge, you enter Marin County. And you can drive as far north until you reach Napa, California, which is also known as the wine country. So we are bordered by the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge to the south, and then Napa County to the north, and that is Marin County. It's a beautiful area. So for those of you who have never been to Marin, we invite you to visit because it's just a beautiful area. So just like other communities in the country, the older adult population in Marin County is really rapidly growing. So in the next 20 years or so, you'll see the growth in our elderly population who are 60 years and over really climbing compared to the population of people 0 to 19 years of age, where you see a little bit of a slight decrease here. So in Marin County, this is the population or the demographic shift that we are seeing, and I'm sure a lot of communities are also seeing the same. So just to give you a sample of the programs that the Area Agency on Aging provides in the community, we actually have a contract with a lot of different community-based organizations, and we have programs such as assisted transportation, case management, chore services for people who are no longer able to physically do some heavy housework. We also provide home-delivered meal services, congregate meal program. This is a senior lunch program, and a bunch of programs for family caregivers. We also provide some services directly from our Area Agency on Aging office, such as information and assistance. We also have the long-term care ombudsman, and also now we are developing an aging and disability resource connection. So before the collaboration, and you see here Transportation BC, or before the collaboration, and we're really talking about prior to 2007. Each of our agencies are doing planning separately. So Marin Transit comes up with their own plan, and the Area Agency on Aging comes up with our own plan. And so while we may be collaborating, it was very loose, and there was really no coordination. Also, the needs assessment surveys in the AAA, we have to do this every 4 years by mandate. And in the past, we see transportation as one of the identified needs, usually in the top 5. And in some years, we've seen transportation being identified as a need by older adults as the #1 need. And also in Marin County, before the collaboration with Marin Transit, the only service available through Marin Transit is the fixed route and the paratransit. So really, clearly, we need to work together because we're doing a lot of things separately. I'm going to turn it over to John to now talk about Marin Access and the Marin Transit program, and discuss, some of their initiatives.
Thank you, Anna. So out of our collaboration really did come Marin Access. It's a subset of Marin Transit focused on people with disabilities and seniors in Marin County. We've broadened our transportation programs to include not only the paratransit, but also volunteer driver programs, both mileage reimbursement and matching programs where we actually go out and find a driver for our clients. We've added a taxi subsidy program, a travel navigator department that helps people understand their options and sign up for various programs. And we're also providing travel training to those who are just not familiar with the public bus. But it was definitely a process to get there. And I'm going to discuss a little bit of that now, talking about the planning, implementation, and the ongoing sustainability that we've gone through to get to where we are today. And like Anna said, it started back in 2007 when the Area Agency on Aging worked with Marin Transit to write a grant application to our state transportation agency, Caltrans, who gave us a grant to study the seniors and people with disabilities in our area to understand their travel patterns and the gaps in service for those individuals. Part of that grant involved a small group from both the Transit Agency and the Area Agency on Aging going out to Washington, D.C. to undergo federal technical assistance on design thinking. Really got them thinking about ways that they could creatively handle the problems that were facing Marin County at the time. And then when they got back, they worked on the Senior Mobility Action and Implementation Plan. And this plan was rather extensive. It involved everything from identifying traffic patterns at various senior facilities, both for the residents and for those working at the facilities, and really identifying where people were seeing isolation and gaps due to lack of transit. From there, we formed in 2010 as one of the items in the Action and Implementation Plan, the Marin Mobility Management Consortium. What that did is brought together not only the Area Agency on Aging and the Transit Agency, but also many of the other care agencies and agencies working with seniors and people with disabilities in our area. We started talking about the gaps and how we might address them. We actually broke them down into different categories and started coming up with ideas. While that was all going on, we are also working on passing a local ballot measure, which was Measure B. That was a vehicle licensing fee of $10 per vehicle. What that did is provide 35% of that money to senior disabled transportation in Marin. So it's a dedicated funding of about $700,000 a year. This really gave us a platform for which to launch programs from. And the first thing we worked on was the volunteer driver programs. We identified some software, put it out to the existing programs, and launched our own internal programs with the help of the Area Agency on Aging and other organizations in the area. So in 2012, we approached another gap in Marin, which was the idea that taxis could be utilized to serve seniors and people with disabilities. This was something that had been brought to our attention both in the Action Implementation Plan and by local advocates who were really used to going into San Francisco and getting script for the local taxis. What we did with that program is we made it a virtual program. We handle everything on the back end, and we were able to give people $14 to $18 per ride towards their taxi trips per month. Been a very successful program in that. And then in 2014, the Area Agency on Aging, in collaboration with other aging organizations throughout Marin, formed the Aging Action Initiative to really address all kinds of different senior programs issues facing our seniors and aging population within Marin. From that came the Inform and Connect presentations, in which we actually took frontline staff that work with seniors and trained them in many different fields, everything from housing in Marin to transportation to food, nutrition, things like that. So as we've implemented all these things, we've really been working together to attend each other's meetings, really learn about what each other does. One such meeting that has been ongoing, as I mentioned earlier, was the Marin Mobility Consortium. We're still having that quarterly, and it still sees an attendance of about 25 to 35 different agencies per meeting. The Commission on Aging also hosts a housing and transportation meeting, which focuses on housing and transportation throughout Marin, and we've been very active on both ends in that as well. The Commission on Aging is very active in our Paratransit Coordinating Council and several other different meetings that we hold regularly in the area where we discuss senior transportation. We also work with each other when we release RFPs, so requests for proposals. So for instance, we just released one recently for software, and the Area Agency on Aging, though they don't know this yet, will probably be helping us out with that in reviewing the various bids that come in to see that it's really client-oriented, whatever we choose. We also work with outreach and cross-promotion of programs. When the Area Agency on Aging has a survey, we put it on our buses. When we have a survey, they hand them out for us. They've actually been integral in launching programs as well, as they were part of our eligibility program when Marin Catch a Ride first launched. We've also recently partnered on grant applications, such as the Ride to Wellness grant. Though we weren't funded on the first round, we're looking forward to applying again for the second round. And we also involve each other in our major planning efforts. So when we do a short-range transit plan, we engage with AAA to get their information for that document. Same when they do a strategic analysis on their end, we provide the transportation section for that as well. Now I'm going to hand it over to Erin, who's going to give you a little bit better idea of how you can apply what we've done to what you do.
Thank you, John. And just to kind of recap what Anna and John have covered so extensively in the beginning, we followed a process for successful change to be able to tell this story here today about how we've collaborated and how we'll continue to collaborate. First we did set the stage. We used our grant from Caltrans to collect all the information we needed and create that real sense of urgency on what we needed to do and help guide us in our vision. Second, we actually decided what to do. We through the Senior Action and Implementation Plan, we developed the change vision strategy that set ahead what we were going to do in terms of programs and how we would address the gaps that were already identified. And then 3, we made it happen. As John mentioned, Measure B was really influential in being able to support the programs that we envisioned. So we communicated with our with stakeholders and with the community to let them understand what the benefits were of that measure and get their buy-in. And through the Mobility Consortium and other commissions and committees, really empowered people to be part of that and produce some of those short-term wins, like the volunteer driver software and other quick, low-hanging fruit that got people excited and continued their participation. And finally, the 4th step is make it stick. We created a new culture that helps us to collaborate today, that makes us confident that we can reach out to each other and rely on each other to shape how we will help seniors and with people with disabilities and their transportation needs. So some resources to get you started and how you can do this at home in your community, we see 3 main steps here. The first step is identifying the players by finding your local area agency on aging, your transit agencies, your metropolitan planning organization, which is a regional organization that sets long-term goals for planning and projects, and also some advocacy groups and research institutions that might be helpful. The second step is the time when you do your research and you use their resources to educate yourself on what they do, what their plans are, specifically, we as a transit agency as well as the AAA set out really specific goals and objectives for what we hope to achieve and how we hope to do that. So once you understand what your peers' objectives are, it's a lot easier then to move on to step 3 and identify what your shared needs and priorities are. And that's how you identify those opportunities for collaboration to start reaching out and working together. So for step 1, identifying the players, we just have a few helpful databases and member directories here for you to get started. To find your local transit agency, the American Public Transportation Association, which is called APTA, has a helpful tool called Find Public Transportation Near You. If you just go to their main website at apta.com, you'll see that sort of down to the top towards the right. You'll just put in your zip code or your address, and it'll pop up with all of the agencies near you. The Area Agency on Aging's Elder Care Locator does something very similar to help you locate your AAA or Title VI program at the link we've provided. To find your MPO, your Metropolitan Planning Organization, the federal government does have a database at the link provided. And finally, I think this is where you can get creative in terms of identifying who people are in your community, but for advocacy and research institutions, you might look to your local university or community foundation, but also there are a number of advocacy organizations out there focused specifically on public transportation. And NADTC, the National Alliance of Public Transportation Advocates, does have a member directory for its members that you can look up based on where you are. So step 2, once you've identified who your players are, you will start looking at what the resources they have that you can learn from in terms of identifying what their goals and objectives are. So for transit agencies, you'll typically have a short-range transit plan that lays out what we're going to do in the next 10 to 20 years. So if you'll see on the bottom left, that's Marin Transit's short-range transit plan, which we also call our SRTP. We update that every few years, and it goes for about a 10-year period or so. In there you'll find not only our goals and objectives, but also what we identify as our funded needs and our unfunded needs, which is really helpful in understanding not just what we are doing, but what we'd like to do if we had the money or participation from another agency. For your area agency on aging, that is a plan, the area plan that plans on every 4 years and updated every year within that. Very similar to our SRTP, which identifies needs and goals. Your MPO will put together a coordinated public transit human services transportation plan. So these are locally developed coordinated plans that identify the needs of seniors, people with disabilities, and people with low incomes, and provide strategies for meeting those needs. And most importantly, any projects that are receive federal funding under 5310, JARC, and New Freedom must be derived from these local plans. Your MPO, our MPO here in the San Francisco Bay Area is the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and they help produce also a regional long-range integrated transportation and land use housing plan, which is called Plan Bay Area. So not the whole plan is not related to transportation, but you will see sections in there about accessibility and the changing demographics and how the region plans on responding to those needs in the future. And finally, advocacy and research institutions do a really great job of putting out reports and technical guides, as well as legislative info. For example, the document on the bottom right is a great technical guide for how to conduct walking audits and safety audits for older adults in your community, so that you can identify, the gaps and opportunities and how you should move forward. So finally, step 3, coordinate. Once you identify what your opportunities are to collaborate with your partners in your community, you can probably take a number of approaches, but luckily the National Center for Mobility Management provides a lot of information, and we could have you probably will have a whole nother webinar about these tactics. So here are just a few quick links for you from the National Center for Mobility Management on coordinated transportation strategies, a link to their regional liaisons who can provide technical assistance, and a few more resources on local coordinated services. So thank you for your time today and listening along with us. Please feel free to submit any questions on the LinkedIn forum, and we'll respond to them throughout the course.
Great. Thank you so much, Erin, John, and Anna. This is really a great presentation that I think laid out step by step some great tips and information on collaboration and coordination between agencies. So we really appreciate you sharing all this information with us. And as Erin said, if you have questions, I'll work with them. You can post them in the LinkedIn forum, and I'll work with them to try and get those answered in the near future. So thank you again, and we will wrap it up. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our second session focused on collaboration and partnership. Today we'll be hearing from Dave Lynn with ACC Senior Services. Dave is going to be sharing some information about ACC's transportation program, ACC Rides, including some history about the role of partnerships in creating and sustaining the transportation program, partnerships used to create a program for non-English speaking riders, and how creative community support has helped build a robust volunteer driver service. He'll also talk a little bit about how these programs are funded. Dave is the volunteer coordinator for ACC Rides. He's responsible for volunteer management, recruitment, training, and scheduling for ACC Rides. And his position is funded by a Federal Transit Administration Section 5310 transportation grant. So Dave, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Eileen. ACC Senior Services is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation founded in Sacramento, California in 1972. Its mission is to promote the general welfare and enhance the quality of life for our community by identifying, developing, and providing culturally sensitive health and social services for older adults. ACC's vision is to create an array of services that help older adults sustain their independence, health, and lifestyle. Originally established as the Asian Community Center of Sacramento Valley, ACC Senior Services has developed into an all-inclusive senior services organization, which includes a community center, a nursing home, ACC Care Center, and an independent and assisted senior living complex, Greenhaven Terrace, in the Pocket Greenhaven area of Sacramento. ACC Senior Services has 4 community programs which are designed to fulfill its vision. The Lifelong Learning and Wellness program includes dance and fitness classes such as Zumba, Tai Chi, and ballroom dancing. It also has art and language classes, music lessons, and various cultural presentations, as well as cooking, computer, and health and wellness classes. The Bridge to Healthy Families Caregiver Support Program provides assistance with care assessment and home safety checks, care consultation and management, senior home visitations, caregiver support groups, and a respite scholarship program. The Utilities Education and Assistance Program helps seniors understand their utility bills and assists with getting discounts, starting and stopping service, and making sure they are not being overcharged for services. The ACC Transportation Service provides door-to-door transportation for mobility-challenged seniors to go to doctor's appointments, congregate lunch sites and social events, and run personal errands. ACC Rides Transportation Service is the largest community program run by ACC Senior Services. In a survey conducted by ACC before the program was started, family caregivers in the community listed senior transportation as one of the greatest needs in the community. The surveys were conducted at many community meetings and churches where community members were able to tell us more about what support was needed when caring for their elder family members. Among the most important transportation needs listed were trips for nursing home residents and their families, medical appointments, neighborhood errands, and shopping trips. The largest consistent need was transportation for participants at adult day respite programs, such as the City of Sacramento's RRR and ACC's own respite program. Most participants of these programs have dementia and need assistance due to mental and physical limitations or use of assistive devices. Founded in 2003, ACC Rides started operations with a $25,000 grant from the Area 4 Agency on Aging, the local agency on aging established by the Older Americans Act. ACC Rides had just one 8-passenger wheelchair lift-equipped bus loaned from Paratransit Inc., 4 volunteer drivers, 2 volunteer driver assistants, and 1 staff member. Paratransit Inc., a longtime partner of ACC Rides, has provided transportation services to individuals with disabilities, the elderly, and related agencies throughout the Sacramento County area for over 25 years. As part of its collaboration agreement with ACC Rides, Paratransit agreed to cover all vehicle operating expenses and provide extensive driver training. This training included how to transport disabled or elderly passengers, and sensitivity training that covered transporting blind passengers, passengers with assistive devices such as wheelchairs and walkers, and passengers with behavioral limitations such as dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and Parkinson's disease. ACC Rides' initial service area was relatively small, covering just 3 Sacramento area zip codes, 95818, 95822, and 95831. This service area was chosen based on community demand and served the most people possible with the limited resources ACC had available at the time. In its first year, ACC Rides averaged about 300 rides per month, primarily for trips to and from adult daycare centers, shopping, and doctor's appointments. A donation of $1.50 per ride was requested and was far less than the cost of comparable transportation options. This donation covered just 10% of the actual cost of each ride, the rest of the cost being made up by other cash donations, grants, and in-kind support. In its third year of operations, ACC Rides entered into an additional agreement with Paratransit Inc. to provide transportation services that specifically benefited their non-English speaking clients. ACC Rides agreed to make volunteers and staff available who were able to assist clients who spoke Cantonese, Mandarin, Japanese, Hmong, Mien, Thai, Tagalog, and Spanish. In return, Paratransit Inc. agreed to cover the cost of fuel, maintenance, and a small portion of the salary of the ACC staff member assigned to this project. ACC Rides relies heavily on its volunteer drivers, driver's assistants, and office assistants to provide its service. Its volunteers are mostly retired persons, and many have hobbies and other volunteer commitments. 98% of ACC volunteers are recruited by word of mouth, and many have volunteered with ACC Rides or another ACC Senior Services program for 10 years or more. ACC Senior Services also uses social media, websites, and print advertising to recruit volunteers. As a show of appreciation, ACC Rides hosts an annual volunteer luncheon, and ACC Senior Services hosts an annual organization-wide banquet where volunteers are recognized for their contributions. In 2015, ACC Rides received an FTA Section 5310 Enhanced Mobility for Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities program grant that allowed the hiring of a full-time ACC Rides volunteer coordinator in 2016. A dedicated volunteer coordinator was needed as ACC Rides volunteer ranks continued to expand over the years. The volunteer coordinator is responsible for recruiting and training new volunteers, maintaining volunteer files and schedules, and assisting and coordinating with the ACC Senior Services volunteer manager. Volunteers are given in-person safety and driving training by Nonprofits United, as well as online training in dementia and Alzheimer's disease offered for free by the Alzheimer's Association. The volunteer coordinator receives continuing education on volunteer recruitment and management through online workshops offered by organizations such as Volunteer Match, and in person through organizations such as DOVIA, the Directors of Volunteers in Agencies of Sacramento. ACC Rides has been recognized for several awards in recent years. In 2015, it was awarded the Rosa Parks Diversity Leadership Award by the Women's Transportation Seminar. This award honors an individual, group, or organization that has made significant contributions in promoting diversity and cultural awareness within their organization. In 2012, Aging Services of California, now known as Leading Age California, honored an ACC Rides volunteer as its Volunteer of the Year. ACC Rides and ACC Rides volunteers have also been awarded the Heroes in Human Services Award by Sacramento County, the Beverly Foundation Star Award, and the MetLife Foundation Older Volunteers Enrich American Award. ACC Rides is in its 14th year of operations. It currently provides transportation for Sacramento area seniors to 6 cafe sites for hot meals, to take part in the various activities provided at each location, and to socialize and utilize the resources they offer. Cafe sites include the Women's Civic Improvement Club, the Sam Pinnell Community Center, the Buddhist Church of Sacramento, and the Ethel Hart Senior Center. In addition to transportation to cafe sites, ACC Rides also transports seniors to attend ACC classes, medical appointments, life-sustaining treatments such as dialysis and chemotherapy, for grocery shopping, and other personal errands. ACC Rides is still promoted primarily through word of mouth and has established a reputation throughout the community for its professional and caring service. It is this reputation which has kept demand for ACC Ride services high and has also helped its volunteer base continue to grow steadily. ACC Rides currently receives valuable support from organizations such as the Agency on Aging Area 4, the Federal Transit Administration through Caltrans and the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, the Tykert Foundation, and the Ann Land and Bertha Henschel Memorial Fund. Its long collaboration with Paratransit Inc. has continued unabated and has expanded to include several more vehicles, vehicle maintenance agreements, and an increase in the volume of paratransit riders transported by ACC Rides. ACC Rides now provides over 40,000 one-way rides annually. It relies on the help of 87 active volunteer drivers, driver's assistants, dispatchers, schedulers, and office assistants. In 2016, ACC Rides registered 348 new riders and employs 14 full-time staff, operates a fleet of 16 vehicles, and services clients in 9 zip codes and several parts of the Delta region, including Hood-Franklin, Cortland, Locke, and Walnut Grove. It currently requests a $5 donation for each ride, which covers about 80% of the actual cost of the ride. ACC Rides expects to receive 4 new wheelchair minivans in 2017 from an FTA 5310 grant, as well as upgrades to some of the vehicles on loan from Paratransit Inc. It is also currently seeking funding to add service between the cities of Sacramento and Elk Grove. A planned upgrade to Trapeze transportation software, including in-vehicle navigation and scheduling consoles, is scheduled for 2017. ACC Rides will continue to obtain financial and in-kind support from all its current sources, as well as seek out new sources of support. ACC Rides and ACC Senior Services are located in the Pocket Greenhaven area of Sacramento. We can be found on the web at www.accsv.org. Also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you for your interest in ACC Rides Transportation Service.
Great, thank you so much, Dave. I think you shared some great information about some of the creative ways that you've received support and also created partnerships to serve the needs of the transportation in your community. And with some flexibility and the leveraging of funding resources, it's clear that your partnerships are a great example of how a variety of community agencies can come together to be a part of a bigger solution. So with that, we're going to wrap it up today. Thanks again, Dave. We really appreciate you participating with us. Any questions you have about Dave's presentation can be posted in the LinkedIn forum, and we'll work with ACC Rides to get an answer back to you. Thanks again.